94% of the students that I coach are making these mistakes. These mistakes will ruin your landscape photography. In this video, I'm going to show you something that took me 10 years to learn, the mistakes to avoid to get great landscape photography. This is a must-watch before you travel anywhere to do landscape photography. If you want to get great photos, I've used this trick to get my work in over 120 galleries around the world and publish 7 coffee table books. And I'm going to reveal everything. If you watch this video until the end, you will have a good grasp of what really works in terms of composition and how to get great photography in the wild. So come with me to Iceland and I'm going to show you the 7 mistakes to avoid to get great landscape photography. Let's go!
I love taking something called natural drama. Natural drama is natural but dramatic. It's not over retouch, it's not under retouch. It has full-on drama, but it looks natural. And 5 years ago, I started going to Iceland. And I want to tell you a couple of stories about Iceland that I hope inspires you to take even better landscape photos. One of the most beautiful waterfalls in Iceland is called the Skogafoss waterfall. It's a majestic, very powerful waterfall that is so big and so powerful that there is water spraying everywhere. It's very, very hard to shoot. And I want to tell you a story about this waterfall because I think it really tells you the importance of composition when it comes to take photography. So the first time I went to Iceland, I went with many professional photographers, people like Daniel Corden or Albert Rose, which are like some of my mentors and heroes. And I remember this day, we came to this waterfall and I was there with like 50 photographers from all over the world. Each of them had incredible gears, incredible camera, incredible tripods. We came out of the bus and we looked at this waterfall and I saw every single photographer, you know, putting on their tripod and taking this long exposure photography of the waterfall. So we all were there to take photos and I see Albert Rose who is like laying on the floor trying to take photos. The next day, most of the photographers had gotten photos like this or like this. You know, there are cool photos, but we all had kind of the same photo. But then Albert Rose did a presentation and showed a photo he took a couple of years earlier that looked like this. And everybody went crazy like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. I didn't think of using these bubbles as a foreground element. I want to go back. Everybody wanted to go back and shoot the waterfall again. This was a huge lesson for me because I realized the importance of foreground. So for example, when I came back to this waterfall, I've been there many, many times. I was always looking for nice foreground elements to give depth to my photography because the #1 error that I see in photographers is compositions that do not have depths. And so let me give you a couple of examples. So I remember when I came back year after year, I always try to really add depth to my photo. I was always looking like for a foreground element. For example, this photo doesn't work at all for me. This was a photo I shot this year. I found this stone. I thought it was kind of cool to have the stone as a foreground element, but it didn't quite work because the weather was not the same. The ice that Albert had was much more interesting. Another composition that I tried that didn't work at all, I just had a friend standing there and I took him as a foreground element and it didn't work at all. Here is another composition that I did that actually worked. I did the long exposure, but I waited for everybody to move and I had this sort of leading line leading to the waterfall. So I had the long exposure, but I had the leading line and finally I found something that worked. Let me give you some other example of the importance of leading lines and creating depth, especially when you shoot beautiful waterfall. This is another waterfall. This one is very famous in Iceland. It's a waterfall that's actually very close. It's called the Seljalandsfoss waterfall, which, sorry for my pronunciation, it's really bad. And this waterfall is very special because you basically walk up the stairs and you can go behind the waterfall and take an amazing shot. The problem is that there's so much water up in the air. I had this idea of using the waterfall as a foreground element and shooting the whole valley, but the problem is that the weather was not nice and it was just so much water in the air. Most of my photo looked like this and it didn't work at all. And finally, I actually had the Leica Q3 on me and the Leica Q3 has a very small lens and has a little protector, so I was able to get that shot at a very fast speed without water, but I was really not happy with it. It really was a complete failure for me. Later on, we went to another waterfall, which I don't know what the name is, but that waterfall is absolutely crazy. And I had this idea of like, I wanted to create depth on this waterfall because it was coming in front of a cave. So we hiked really hard to get behind the cave and it was really slippery. And when I got behind the cave, I got this one photo and I thought this photo was very, very boring. I'm like, I gotta do something better. So I had the idea of doing a vertorama. What is a vertorama? That's when you take a whole series of photos from the top down to capture the entire scene. You see, I didn't have my 12-24 on me, and I wanted to capture everything with the lens that I had, so doing the Vertorama seemed to be the right choice. At the end, in Lightroom, this is the composition that I got, and I have to tell you, I really love the composition because the frame in a frame gives really more depth to the photo, because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get depth. I liked it so much that this is the only photo I did of that trip, is I changed the sky and I got this photo, which actually is one of my favorite. I know it's completely fake, but the only time that I change the sky is when I see something that is a very strong composition, that is very powerful, but with the sky would just make it next level. I really try to avoid at all costs, just because I'm proud of it. You know, I've been taking photo for 17 years and I love the idea of coming back over and over and over and finally getting the incredible, the very powerful shots. I absolutely love that. I'm not gonna go back to Iceland for a while, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna change the sky on this one. Now, I want to talk to you about the error number 2, which is not using post-processing to really create drama on your photos. For example, this photo, I use post-processing by changing the sky. This is the before and this is the after. But sometimes some simple post-processing can go a long way. This is the same waterfall, but I came out of the cave and I looked straight at it. Again, I was looking for leading lines. I was looking to create depths. Leading lines and foreground elements is the next things you can use to create depths in your photo. So I went very close to the water and I was using the water as a foreground element, you know, on a slow shutter speed. And I kind of liked the photo, but I thought it really lacked drama. So I'm going to show you, if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, next week I'm going to come with a video showing you how I did all the retouching of all the photos you see here. And this is one of them. And you see, I use dramatic retouching in Lightroom to make this photo more interesting. Let me show you another example. This is something I did in Lightroom to make it more interesting. So really don't make that mistake. Learn how to create drama in Lightroom. Make sure you subscribe so you get notified when I do the next video, so you know how to do this kind of effect. This is another one. I was trying to get this rock as a foreground element, and I was trying to get this leading line here to the waterfall, and I really liked it, but boom, look at this with some really nice dramatic Lightroom retouching. It really comes out very, very strong. So don't make that mistake. Let me show you another example. This is the before and this is the after. Lightroom really kind of helps on bringing in drama. This is another one, before and after. Look at the difference. Look how much drama there is. And all I did is what I called the Saving Private Ryan method. This movie from Steven Spielberg about the D-Day is amazing. He used something called bleach bypass. Bleach bypass is an old technique used in movies back in the day where I think they added bleach in the chemicals to add a lot of contrast and take out of saturation. And this is what I did. Look at the before, look at the after. I added a lot of contrast and took out a lot of saturation. So thank you, Steven Spielberg, for the inspiration. Now, this time when I was in Iceland, I had an amazing guide. He brought me to waterfalls that didn't exist. This was my 4th or 5th time coming back to Iceland, but he showed me places which were amazing. And I remember coming and walking along this path and seeing this waterfall completely at the end. I was excited. I love the shape of that waterfall. I was like, how am I going to get a strong photo there? I went there with 15 students and we spent an hour trying to find a good angle to get that waterfall, and nothing was working. It was just boring because there was all these rocks as a foreground element and it just didn't look cool, and putting on an ND filter was not enough. The composition was not strong enough. And so it's again about having a way to add depth to your photo. And again, it's basically the first 2 errors. How can we add depth to this photo, and how can we make it dramatic using post-processing? So after moving after an hour and trying different kind of photos, I went on the side, I went very close, and nothing really worked. I had the idea of actually going in the water, so I went back to the bus and I got some boots, and I put the boots on, and the boots on, I put my ski pants over it, and I actually went into the water, and I was holding my camera and I did a 10-second exposure. I took a few shots until I got this photo, and then I used Lightroom to really make it dramatic, kind of in the spirit of Saving Private Ryan. There is very cold colors, it's very contrasty, it's not that saturated. It's maybe one of my favorite photos. Again, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can see next week how I retouch this photo. So again, don't make the error of not finding good foreground elements to give depth to your photo and not using Lightroom to not have drama to your photo. Now, a couple of years ago, I went to Iceland and I went into the highlands. Now, the highlands are amazing. It's inside of Iceland and you can only go there usually during the summer because very fast there's so much snow. And one big error that I see, and that's the error number 3, is when you're using a drone to only shoot straight up. You see, when you shoot straight up, you get photos which are kind of boring. There are photos that look like you hiked on the top of a mountain and you took the shot. When you have a drone, you want to get exceptional shots that only a drone can pull off. And so I heard about this volcano from my guide and I actually sent my drone for over 2 miles flying over the entire valley here in the highlands. And I found the 3 volcanoes. Now there's something very peculiar about these volcanoes is that they have some red colors. It's just the way the rocks and the sand makes a red ring on each of the volcano. And so I took my drone and I brought it over the volcano and then I started looking down. And just to show you, this is the kind of photo at first I was getting. I was not happy with it because this is just shooting straight. This is another photo shooting straight. But finally I had the idea of looking down, and then I looked down at all 3 volcanoes, and with a bit of drama in Lightroom I got this shot. This is one of my most favorite drone shot ever. So make sure you try shooting up and down and you use Lightroom to add drama to your raw files coming from the drone. You see, that's another photo that I shot, you know, straight on. It's okay, it's nice, but I could have hiked a mountain and get that shot. It doesn't look like an iconic drone shot. Error number 4, and this has to do with the Northern Light. Northern Light is one of the most epic things you can do when you do a landscape. Now, one of the big mistakes I see people do when they shoot the Northern Light is they shoot very, very flat photos where there is absolutely no foreground elements. They just have the Northern Light, and that is not enough because to make the photo interesting, you need to have a cool foreground. And I remember we went around the bus for hours and hours until we found the perfect mountain, the mountain that will actually work. And we looked at it, we've not only found a mountain that had a great shape, but we found like a little lake that will give us the reflection that we want. So once we had our mountain, we did a technique where we took 2 photos. I took a very long exposure for the mountain because I wanted the mountain to be very clean. Look how clean this photo is. There's hardly any noise. It's very, very, very clean. And that is what we call the plate. A plate is the foreground photo that's very clean. And then I started taking a whole bunch of photos of different shapes with a short exposure of the Northern Light. So I had lots of photos of the Northern Light and I had one plate and I mixed them both to get this final image. And this final image is clean everywhere. You get the Northern Light and you get the reflection. So the foreground is clean, but the Northern Light is also clean. The problem with a very long exposure, you get a very nice mountain, but look at the sky. The sky is kind of nice, but you get a trail effect on the stars and all the Northern Light is completely washed away. By mixing both photos, we get a photo that's really interesting where you actually can see the Northern Light, but you also get all the bottom that is very, very sharp. I can actually print that photo and sell it in gallery. So that's error number 5. Make sure that you take 2 photos for the Northern Light, one for your foreground and one for your background, and you mix both in Photoshop. Again, I have a video on how I did this. The link is under the description of this video if you want to see precisely how to do this Photoshop manipulation. This is another example of the Glacial Lagoon, beautiful lagoon. I went there just to shoot the Northern Light. And on this one, it's I kind of like the photo. It's kind of an exception. I actually did a very long exposure, so I do get the star trail and I don't really get like very clear Northern Light, but I love the results. So sometimes rules are meant to be broken. What matters is really spend the time to try to find a cool foreground element. Again, we're trying to give depth in your photo. This is also an example, this is a Milky Way shot that I got that is extremely boring. Look at all these shots that I got in California where I really had interesting foregrounds. These Milky Way shots are much more interesting. So when you travel, take the time to look for these very strong foregrounds so that the Milky Way can be part of the scene, but you have an anchor point, you have a foreground from where you're shooting from. It's very important. Error number 6, not showing the scale of a landscape. When you do a landscape, you want to show the scale. Look, this is a beautiful photo. This is Westerhorn. Now, Westerhorn means the Western Horns. It's one of the nicest beaches that I've seen in Iceland. The way the mountains are, the way they reflect in the water, the way you get the leading lines from the water, it's absolutely breathtaking. The place is absolutely huge. But look at this next photo. It's the same place, but I actually rented a horse and got a girl to have the horse run around the beach. And this is one of my favorite photos. The horse makes the entire photo much more exciting. It also gives the scale on how big the place is. Look at this photo. This is okay. This is Versternhorn. Again, it's really nice, but you don't have the sense of the scale. Here's the same photo with one of my students in the shot. Now you get a sense of how big the place is. So showing the scale is very important. This is another photo from Versternhorn taken at sunset. I on purpose took a panel because I wanted the sun to be there. So this is like a full photo. But you see, I added one of my students in the shot because I wanted to show how huge the place is. Verstern is so unique because not only you have the mountains, you have this beautiful beach, but you also have the dunes there. And you also have this other place where you have this incredible reflection, and you can see the reflection of the mountains in the water. Now, error number 7, and the most important one, not shooting at the right time. I see this error all the time. You see, this is Diamond Beach. Now, Diamond Beach is next to the Glacier Lagoon. The Glacier Lagoon is an amazing place, which is a big lagoon where all the icebergs are breaking, and it's just absolutely unique. It's really hard to get good photos, but all the Glacier Lagoon basically go into a river, into a black sand beach called Diamond Beach. And I remember going there 2 years ago at the wrong time, where the light was not good, and we got a whole bunch of photos, although we did some long exposure, that were boring. I never used any of these photos. Never in a million world. And so what I did is, this year I didn't do the same mistake. I came back at sunrise at the right time, and look at the difference of the shot. It's the same beach, but the sun was rising, and it just changes everything because photography means writing with the light. So you shooting at the right time makes all the difference in the world. This is another sunrise at Diamond Beach. These are some of my favorite photos, and they work completely because they were shot at the right time. And this is the most important thing. If there's only one thing you should remember from this video is make sure you come back at the right time. Sunset, golden or blue or whatever it is, as long as the light is nice. Again, photography means writing with the light. If you like this video, please give me a like and make sure you subscribe so that you can see the next video that's going to show you how you retouch some of these photos. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.